Welcome back to Calculated Risk. I am Tyler Shoemaker, joined as always by Kelley Ford. We did our week 2 recap show earlier this week. Now we are looking ahead to week 3. And, I've seen a lot of people say that this is a bad slate of games. And I mean, Kelley, I've seen you tweet this. Like, in our opinion, there really is no bad slate of games as long as you have a full Saturday of college football. We got some Thursday night games, some Friday night games. So I'm looking forward to it. There's not as many marquee matchups, but I mean, you and I are kind of sickos. Like we like some of these generally under the radar games. So I'm looking forward to it. Kelley, what are your initial thoughts here on this slate for week 3?
You're right. I did tweet it, and I'm in full agreement with you, Tyler. Some people complaining about the slate. I will give it to you. This is not the blockbuster, biggest, highest, most profile games on a college football Saturday that we've seen. Like that, you can't argue that. That's true. At the same time, guys, we only get 13 full-on college football Saturdays. Week 0, it's great. I love it, but it's not full-on. Army-Navy, that's technically college football Saturday. It's not full-on. Conference championship weekend, that's not full-on. We get 13 full-on college football Saturdays. We spend all year, from the winter months to the summer, leading into the fall, begging for college football. Please do not take these for granted. We don't get enough of them. And also, Tyler, it just feels like these are the kind of weeks historically that chaos will just reign and we'll get unexpected results and we'll get upsets at the top and all of that. So someone came in at me and was like, oh, it's almost okay if you had a fall wedding on this Saturday. And I was like almost an instant mute, just like on the spot. I didn't do it, but I was like,
that's your sore spot.
That's a mutable offense right there. Do not tell me, it's like a bye week. It's not a bye week, guys. There are games. They're exciting. They're not the marquee matchups that we get in some other weeks. I'll give you that, but it's college football. It's college football Saturday. Like, let's go. We're going to talk about it. I'm excited.
Yep, me too. So with that, let's get into our first, quote unquote marquee matchup here of the weekend. One of the few I think that really does stand out from the rest, and that's Tennessee going to the Swamp as right now a 6.5 point favorite over Florida. And one nugget that I want to give credit to Brad Powers for pointing out, Tennessee, going back to like 1976, Tennessee has only been a road favorite at Florida twice. Both of those were less than 3 points, and they lost outright both times. So this is the biggest spread that Tennessee's had going to the Swamp. So, I'm not saying that that's anything actionable from a betting standpoint, but it is just, interesting history there. So I make this game Tennessee minus 5.5. I project a total at 57. Like I said, the line currently sits at Tennessee minus 6.5 with a total of 58. So I'm pretty aligned with the market currently. Florida's my number 43 overall team, while Tennessee's number 20 for me overall. And obviously they're both in the SEC East. I've got Florida as the number 4 SEC East team, Tennessee number 2 in the SEC East, obviously behind Georgia. Florida offensively number 53, and on defense they're number 42 for me. Whereas Tennessee offense very good, not as high as I projected initially. Their offense has tumbled a little bit. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that as well, Kelley. But Tennessee's dropped to number 14 on offense for me, number 46 on defense, still, kind of middle of the pack there. I give them a 66% chance to win this game. There's not huge ramifications here in terms of win-loss for either team. I mean, I think Florida is going to be hard-pressed to make a bowl game either way. But if they do want to make a bowl, they definitely do have to get this game, I think. And, Billy Napier, there's some loud voices that, may want him on the hot seat. Their schedule next year is very tough. So I think for him to get out of this year and next year alive, he's going to have to win some of these games where he's an underdog. So this would be a perfect opportunity for him. My brother's a Florida fan, so I hope for his sake that they pull it off here. Kelley, what are your thoughts here on Tennessee, Florida?
Yeah, this is my number 2 game of the week in my watchability scores. The article I write for thelions.com is already up. You can catch my watchability graphic in there for week 3 before I post it on Twitter and the website on Friday. I have Tennessee minus 4.5, so pretty similar to you with a 62% win expectancy, so a little bit less than you there. Even though Tennessee didn't look great last week against FCS McNeese, and they are down a point in my ratings and 5 spots in my rankings from where they started this, I still have Tennessee as the biggest threat to Georgia in the East, just like you, Tyler. The offense, so here's my unit rankings. The offense is still top 10 nationally for me. The defense has actually been better than I expected. I know you said you got them down. They've risen from number 35 to number 29 for me. Tennessee is my number 2 projected team in the East, like I said. Florida's number 3, though. A win for the Gators this week flips those numbers right on their head, and Florida would become the main challenger to Georgia with regard to chances to win the SEC East if they're able to get this win at home. The model's been pretty dialed in on Florida. The Gators have fallen a half point from number 25, number 31. Offense has remained in the 20s. Defense has remained in the 40s. Again, all of this relative to the preseason. I'm projecting basically a wash between the number 29 Florida offense and the number 29 Tennessee defense. The difference for me here in this game is the Tennessee has the number 8 offense in the country. Florida's defense is number 44. So I think that's where the difference is. That said, the Volunteers have lost 9 in a row in the Swamp, Tyler, since their last win in Gainesville back in 2003. I expect the Gator faithful to be out in full force to ensure that the Volunteer team knows that and remembers that. So I do have Tennessee minus 4.5. It's a 38% chance for Florida to pull off the upset at home and keep that streak alive. Just look out, because it's been hard for Tennessee in the Swamp for the last 20 years. I mean, Tyler, more than half the roster wasn't alive the last time that of both these rosters, the last time Tennessee went into Gainesville and came out with a win, and they go there every other year.
Yeah, that when I heard that is just jarring. And one last note here for my numbers on this that I forgot to mention. So now that we've got a couple data points on these teams, I'm able to kind of look at what their on-field performance has been, in terms of their game grades. So using just their on-field data from 2023, I would make Tennessee about a 3-point favorite here. So, that line is shrinking. So I expect this to be a nail biter in the Swamp. And Kelley, you and I both, kind of pointed out this is a night game in the Swamp as well. I mean, playing in the Swamp is difficult anyway. A night game adds a whole other element to it. So I'm kind of on alert here for Tennessee to maybe limp out of the Swamp.
No doubt.
All right, so let's get to our second game, which is the Backyard Brawl between West Virginia, who my background is of if you're watching on YouTube, and Pitt. Kelley, I'll let you kick us off first on this one. What do you got on the Backyard Brawl?
I'm glad you let me, because the Backyard Brawl, man, I love this game, Tyler. I will never forget 2007 for a lot of reasons. That was the best college football season of my lifetime, and probably always will be. Never top that. But that 2007 season, final week of the year. Number 2, West Virginia, Pat White, Steve Slayton. This team was awesome. Fun to play with in the NCAA video games. They have a chance to book their place in the BCS National Championship game. All they have to do is beat 4-7 Pitt at home. That's it. You win that game, you're in the BCS National Championship game. They lose 13-9. The final dagger from the curse of the number 2 that year. So many number 2s lost of the year. Number 1, Missouri went down that week too. And you get Ohio State and LSU. LSU won lost the previous week and ended up in the national championship game. That year was crazy. The curse of the number 2. But this game, I will always remember the Backyard Brawl 2007 edition. Pitt fans love it. West Virginia fans can't stand it. I love this game. I'm projecting this one this year to be a close one. My numbers have Pitt minus 1.5, 54% win expectancy for the Panthers. Pitt came into the year with a 6.7 power rating and ranked number 37. The Panthers are now power rated with a 6.5 and ranked number 38. I mean, it's virtually unchanged on both fronts. They performed exactly as the model has expected. West Virginia is in a similar boat. The Mountaineers started the year with a 1.9 rating, number 55 national ranking. Their KFord rating has actually improved slightly to 2.6, but their corresponding ranking has fallen a couple spots to number 58. Important. I've talked about this almost every week, and I probably will continue to. The rating is more important than the ranking. So Mountaineer fans, if you're looking, okay, our rating's up, our ranking's down, you should be more pleased than anything with that. So the 1-1 start to the season, you've moved up in the ratings. The ranking will take care of itself. Keep improving that rating. That's the most important thing. West Virginia has the best unit on the field here by my numbers, number 41 offense. Matches up with the Pitt defense that I have number 46. The difference for me in this one, I talked about what it was in Tennessee and Florida. Difference for me here, West Virginia defense, they're the worst unit on the field, and it's kind of by a large margin. Number 83 for me. This Pitt offense is right around where those other ones are, number 43. So, yes, it's in Morgantown. Yes, it's a huge rivalry game. My model is giving the slight edge to the Panthers here. Listen, West Virginia can absolutely win this game. If they don't win this game, now you're looking at Texas Tech coming up at TCU before the bye. Coaching hot seats, we talk about it. It's going on in Morgantown. I feel like West Virginia needs this game more than Pitt needs this game. We will see. It should be really close. It should be exciting. Pitt minus 1.5. That's what my numbers make it. 46% chance for West Virginia to get the win at home, get a small taste of revenge for 2007. It's not going to make up for it by any means, but hey, anytime you beat your rival, it's a big deal.
Well, I have a vested interest in this game. Well, I have 2 vested interests in this game, actually. So The line currently sits, last time I checked, at circa West Virginia -1.5. Total sits at 47.5. You project this Pitt minus.
It's cross zero.
Yeah, yeah. It's cross zero. It's actually kind of bounced back and forth. And depending on where you look right now, you can get a pick 'em. You can get pretty much +1 on either side. And our numbers reflect that. As you were talking, like, you project Pitt as a small favorite. I project WVU -0.5. So basically like a pick 'em. Directionally, my numbers are very similar to yours, where the West Virginia offense, best unit on the field, number 40 for me. West Virginia defense, number 98 for me. So the worst on the field, even worse than your numbers have them. Pitt's offense, number 58. Pitt's defense, number 59. So they're balanced. That I don't think that's great. You don't want to be in the 50s, but they are balanced. West Virginia's number 71 overall for me. Pitt number 60. Again, win probability right at 50%. This is a true toss up in terms of my numbers. Both of these teams really could use a win, because I only project them at 4.6 for West Virginia and 4.9 wins for Pitt. Coming into this game, I've got a season win total ticket under on West Virginia, under 4.5 wins. So, a Pitt win here would not upset me at all from that standpoint. Again, using the on-field data only, and again, super small sample size. That's why I'm not like incorporating it into my bets or anything like that. But I think it is just kind of worth noting how these teams have started to trend early on in the season. My on-field numbers only would make West Virginia an 11-point favorite here, which I think is interesting. But again, my bets here, I've got the West Virginia team's win total under. I also bet the over for this game at 47, because I projected at 58. So that's where my numbers are on the game. Kelley, any closing thoughts here before we move on to our next game?
It's a rivalry game. I'm up for it. I don't even care who it is, but it's going to be a good one.
Yep, can't wait. So our last kind of marquee game here kind of lost some luster this week with the Mel Tucker issues that are going on at Michigan State, but Michigan State's going to host Washington. Washington currently a 16-point favorite with an over-under set at 55. I will get us started here on this one. Michigan State is my number 51 team overall. Washington's number 12 and climbing pretty quickly. They've played well so far this year. The Michigan State offense is number 62 and is going to be the worst unit on the field by far here. Their defense, number 49, so much better than their offense, but still not great. Washington has my number 4 offense in the country. Michael Penix and those receivers have been awesome. Their defense is okay. I think improving. It's number 38 in the country, which I think is up from where I had them in the preseason. I give Washington an 83% chance to win this game. Not much impact here in terms of, bowl eligibility. Michigan State, especially with the Tucker stuff this week, I don't know that even if they would somehow pull off this huge upset as a 16-point dog, they're going to get murdered in the Big Ten. And then depending on what happens with Coach Tucker, that's just kind of a dumpster fire moving forward, I think. Washington, if they have playoff aspirations, like, this is the game they have to win. You can't lose as a 16-point favorite and expect to make the playoff. So huge game from that standpoint. And again, last nugget here, using the on-field data from 2023 only, Washington has come out of the gates extremely hot. I said in the preseason I was, low on them and maybe too low and would be happy to be wrong. I think that's turning out to be the case. I would make Washington a 20-point favorite here using just the on-field data so far for 2023. Kelley, what you got for this one?
Yeah, you hit on a lot of the salient points there, Tyler, and there is a lot going on at that Michigan State program. Geez, the Big Ten's been getting hit with some of that stuff, right? I mean, Northwestern over the summer and now Michigan State, and
Harbaugh suspended in Michigan.
Geez, I didn't even think about Harbaugh suspended. I mean, man, a lot of Big Ten coaches being either removed or placed on leave or whatever from their jobs. There's football games to be played. So as we focus on that for the purpose of the podcast here, after putting up 56 against Boise State in week 1 and 43 against Tulsa in week 2, I was really excited about that Boise State game. And man, Washington looked good as that game progressed. The model has seen enough. I have moved this Washington offense from number 7, which is where they were in the preseason, to now number 2. You said number 4 for you, Tyler. They're number 2 for me. They're behind only USC at this point. The defense has also performed better than expected. They've risen from number 50 in the preseason to now number 33. The Huskies do have to travel across the country now, though, for their first true road game of the year to face what should be their biggest test of the season at least on paper, and again, we're saying at least on paper, my numbers like Washington in this game by about 10.5. You said the spread's 16. You talked about what your spread would be if it was just in-season data. The public and Vegas are certainly accounting for some of these off the field things that are going on at Michigan State and within that program. My model is not seeing those things. So if I had to guess, I think Washington's going to win by more than the 10.5 points that they would if this game was played 2 weeks ago, for example, before all this off the field stuff came to light and came to the forefront. So this Michigan State program, they are mired in this situation that's going on with their head coach, the sexual harassment allegations. The Spartans are number 42 in my power ratings as things stand, but they are, it's actually the best they've been all year. Interestingly, they were 45, 45, 45. And this week, they fell. They're down a tenth of a point, but they rose in the rankings. So again, back to West Virginia, you went up in the ratings, down in the rankings. Michigan State went the other way. They're up in the rankings, but hold on now, they're down in the ratings. That's the more informative thing. So even though they're at number 42, I don't expect them to play like the number 42 team this week. They have the number 24 defense for me, Tyler. So I think I'm a little bit higher on them there. And I have the number 58 offense is what I have them. It's truly anyone's guess, though, as to how this team reacts to these allegations and how they play without their head coach there. So, we talked about this with Northwestern, I think, early in the year. Teams can go one of two ways. You can rally around each other when you face adversity like this. That was through no fault of your own, meaning the players and the people that are going to be participating in this game. Mel Tucker did what he did and now, or allegedly did what he did, and he's dealing with those consequences. The players are either going to rally around this and be stronger for it and play out of their minds and be great, or you let adversity like this kind of divide the locker room and people aren't motivated and you crumble and the season gets off the tracks. I have a feeling I know which way this one might go, but until we see a game, we can't say for certain. So I'm still giving Michigan State, a puncher's chance. They are at home. Washington has to travel, but it's going to be a tough test. Michael Penix back in a Big Ten stadium, of course, spent the beginning of his career at IU in the Big Ten East as well. So I like I like Washington by 10.5. It's a 22% chance by strictly the numbers for Michigan State to pull off the upset at home. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if it was closer to that Vegas spread or maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah, last note from me here. I mean, when you think of the teams that Michigan State has played in under Mel Tucker, like Ohio State, for instance, that has an elite passing attack, they've really struggled. They've gotten thrown all over. So just something to keep your eye on here. I want no part of this game from a betting standpoint because there's too many off-field variables and motivation and things that you can't quantify, which makes me uncomfortable. So from a betting standpoint, I'm staying away. But, if you just absolutely have to have action on that game or something or just watching it as a fan, I think that's something to keep an eye on is how that Michigan State secondary kind of tries to deal with Michael Penix and those receivers. So wrapping up the show here, we're going to touch on 3 other games that kind of jumped out to us. The first of which, North Carolina and Minnesota. North Carolina is at home as a 7.5-point favorite with an over-under set at 50, which I haven't gone to look, but I would say that over-under of 50 is probably the lowest in a North Carolina game in the last few years, if I had to guess. Usually they're in the high 50s or low 60s.
Quick check. They did a 48 total in the South Carolina game to open, and then last week at overtime, App State, it was 74, just as I add up the numbers real quick. So that tells you where they've been.
Yeah, thanks. So I project UNC minus 3.5 here, so I'm much lower than the market. And North Carolina's a team, even last week going into their game with App State, where I was like, oh man, my numbers are kind of low on them. Maybe I'm too low. And then that game went to overtime. So I think I have them appropriately rated at this point. So, there's probably some value here on Minnesota, although hold your nose and bet that if that's the way you go, because Minnesota is miserable to watch play football. But I give North Carolina a 61% chance to win this game. Kelley, what are your quick hitting thoughts here?
Yep, quick hitter here, North Carolina. My numbers like them -7. It's a 69% chance to get the win here against Minnesota at home. To me, it's strength versus strength. We've got the North Carolina offense as a top 20 unit. That Minnesota defense is a top 10 unit. So I'm excited about that side of the ball. The difference is maybe on the other side, Minnesota's offense, number 79 right now, up from number 81 a week ago. It's number 79 against the North Carolina defense that took a tumble this past week after winning against App State in overtime, but they are now number 59 for me. So again, North Carolina -7, Minnesota 31% chance to pull off the upset on the road. If they do, the defense will have to play up to the expectation that I have of them of top 10 level. and the offense is going to have to play better than we've seen them play so far. They put up 13 points against Nebraska, 25 against Eastern Michigan. I don't think even 25 points, which is their season high, is going to be enough to beat a North Carolina team that's put up 31 and 40 so far against, South Carolina and App State, who you could argue are comparable opponent. I mean, South Carolina for sure. Maybe App State's not as good as Minnesota, but South Carolina is a comparable. They put up 31 in that one, and that was in the season opener. So at a neutral site, this one's at home.
Yep. Agree with that. Moving on, we've got Georgia, South Carolina at Georgia. Georgia's currently a 27-point favorite with an over-under of 53.5. I project this game, Georgia 23.5. So I'm a little bit lower on the dogs here. I project the total at 56, so I'm leaning more towards the over there. Georgia with a 95% win probability for me. Kelley, what you got on this one?
We're in alignment here, man. I got Georgia minus 24, but that also, by my win probability model, comes out to a 95% chance to win. Georgia, hey, what do you say? Number 1 team in the country in the power ratings. Number 2 defense behind only Iowa. Number 11 offense. They started number 6. They dropped to number 10. Now they're number 11. I'm not raising alarm bells. They've got a lot of time to figure it out here with the schedule that they have, but it has been dropping a little bit on the offensive side. South Carolina, fans of South Carolina hate me. I'm on weekly radio down there, and they're never happy with what I have to say about their team. But the truth is, having power rated number 41, offense is pretty good, top 25 unit. The defense, I still have concerns about. They've been mid-60s all year. I don't know if the fans think they're better than that or what, but I mean, mid-60s is not good enough when you're playing Power 5 football, when you're playing in the SEC, and now you got to play the number 1 team in the country, and you got to go on the road to do it. Good heavens, 5% chance for South Carolina to pull off this upset for me.
And this is really the game that, in our introduction here, where we're saying these type of weekends produce the most chaos. Like, this is the game that jumped out to me. Like,
well,
they did it. Yeah, they did it a few years ago. I'm certainly not calling for that as 27-point underdogs. I'm not calling for that. But like, if there was going to be chaos, Georgia hasn't been quite Georgia so far this year. Shane Beamer's kind of really good in that underdog role. Like, if there was a recipe for it, it would be this, but obviously not probable. As we pointed out here, about a 5% chance of that.
Was it 29? I was going to say, was it 2019? It was 2019. Hot Rod misses a field goal, I think, late. I remember that because he came to the Colts after that for a little bit. But yes, 2019, and I believe that game was at Georgia as well. They won it 20-17. South Carolina did. So no one saw it that year either. But I'm with you. Not calling it, but this is one of those chaos reigns type games. Absolutely. Yep,
for sure. And this next game, Penn State, Illinois. Illinois beat Penn State, in probably the ugliest college football game ever played. Was that last year, 2 years ago? Penn State's currently a 15-point favorite, over under at 48.5. I project Penn State minus 13.5, which is about where the line opened. I project the total at 50. So, pretty much in line with the market here. 83% win probability for Penn State here. But again, like, Brett Bielema as an underdog, known to muck things up a little bit, specifically against James Franklin and Penn State. Like, if there's a recipe for chaos, it's probably here. So what do you think about this?
I'll get into it in a second. I got to come back to this. It was 2021. And remember, we still have some COVID stuff kind of in that. It's not the 2020 COVID season, but there was still some weird things going on and all that. End of the game, and this is 2-5 or 1-5 or 2-5. I don't know how to read this here, but 1-5 maybe Illinois versus 5-0 or 5-1 Penn State. 10-10 at the end of regulation. First overtime, they both kick field goals. Second time, they both kick field goals. Then they do not score. Now you're in the alternating. This was the first year of the alternating, I think, 2-point conversions.
Yeah.
Third overtime, fourth overtime, fifth overtime, sixth overtime, seventh overtime. Nothing. None of them made anything. Eighth overtime, they both get the 2-point conversion. Ninth overtime, Illinois wins it. It's a 20-18, 9-overtime thriller at Penn State. This one's at Illinois. My number's like Penn State by 16.5. It's an 88% chance to win for Penn State. Penn State's my number 7 team in the power ratings. Don't tell the Michigan fans, they've actually passed Michigan in my power ratings, which has been a cause of concern for me for my safety.
Very close for me.
Yeah, cause of concern on safety for me with Twitter. But anyway, they're number 7 for me now, which is the best they've been all year. Number 13 offense, number 4 defense. They've been a top 5 defense all year for me. Now they're up to number 4. This Illinois team, I thought they were going to have a top 10 defense. They have not. They're all the way down to number 45 on that side of the ball. The offense is still in the 70s, just not good enough. Again, talk about South Carolina. Hey, not good enough when you play in the SEC. Illinois, this is not good enough when you play in the Big Ten, even if it is the Big Ten West, which has been the weaker of the two divisions historically. Power rated number 52 overall, 12% chance for Illinois to pull off the upset. They are at home, and we have seen it before. But again, not calling for this one. I guess if I had to put it down, though, I'd say this one's more likely than the South Carolina-Georgia one, just based on the numbers and probably my feel as well, with Illinois being at home and South Carolina having to go on the road.
Yep. I agree with that. I'm pretty sure that 2021 game, I forget what the over-under was. I want to say maybe like 36. I had bet the under, which was like cash, in regular, and then it went to all those overtimes, and I ended up losing it in the last overtime. was about to lose my mind. I remember that vividly. That's betting for you.
Gosh, that's why I don't do it. Right? Well, that's one of the reasons, I guess.
Yeah, your Saturdays are so much less stressful than mine. I envy it.
I cannot even tell you, man. I got away from even providing the quote best bets 3-4 years ago now of, hey, here's where the KFord ratings are more than 3 points off from the Vegas line. Do with that information what you will, kind of deal. But even though I wasn't doing anything with it, I knew people were. So I'm over here like, oh my gosh, I got Miami and Ohio playing each other on a Tuesday night, and no, why am I stressing about this? I wouldn't have anything on it. It doesn't matter to me. I have confidence that the model is sound and we make tweaks when we need to. But listen, here's all the information on the dashboards. You guys do with it what you please. I'm going to enjoy college football Saturday and just pray for every single upset in the world, except against my team, because then there's no worse feeling than after your team loses and you're sitting here almost feeling obligated to continue watching college football because you love it so much and you're just like, God, my team just lost. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we cheer for the same team, and they don't lose too often. So not
makes it worse when they do, though, because then you're like, oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, well, that's going to do it here for this week 3 preview. We'll be back on Monday to recap everything we saw this weekend. In the meantime, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube at Saturday Glory. Make sure you subscribe in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Kelley on Twitter at KFord Ratings. I am at T-Shoe Index. For Kelley Ford, I'm Tyler Shoemaker, and that was Calculated Risk.